Cases designed for high airflow are a rare breed these days, with liquid coolers ruling the roost in most high-end builds. Today, we'll be taking a look at the all-new Corsair Crystal 280X RGB, a micro ATX case that might just blow you away. That sounded way better when I wrote it. What's up everyone, I'm Jeff, back again for Modders Inc. This in front of me is the brand new Crystal 280X micro ATX case from Corsair. If you've been a fan of the Carbide Air series over the last couple years, this appears to be a spiritual successor to them. There are a number of obvious similarities, such as the two-chamber design, which gives both cases their rather unique looks. Gone is the acrylic side panel and mesh front from the Carbide cases, and in comes tempered glass panels, 3 of them in total. The 280X is available as a bare chassis for an asking price of $110 US, or you can opt for the RGB version, which comes with a pair of LL120 fans and a Lighting Noe Pro controller for just $50 more. A 2-pack of these fans and that Pro controller will typically run you $100 on their own, so not a bad deal for $159 for the full package. Diving into the features, as I mentioned, this is a micro ATX case and is primarily designed for high airflow, but that doesn't mean you can't use an all-in-one liquid cooler or even a full custom loop in this case if you'd like. The Crystal 280X has support for dual 120 or 140mm fans on the top, front, and bottom of the case, although that last one is a bit questionable. More on that in just a minute. It can support radiators of up to 240mm on each side mentioned as well. There's also an additional 120mm fan mount on the backside panel, as well as a dedicated intake for the power supply. Every fan mount is also covered with a magnetic dust filter, so keeping the inside of this case clean should be relatively easy. The inside of the main chamber is wide open, with nothing to block airflow. My micro ATX motherboard slipped right in as easy as could be. All 6 of the main fan mounts are inside this chamber, but as I mentioned, you may not be able to use the mounts on the bottom of this case, at least when you're using a micro ATX board. There doesn't seem to be adequate room for any of the front I/O headers to plug in and still use the 140mm fan mounts. My particular board, the MSI B350M Pro VH Plus, also has its USB 3.0 header on that bottom row, covering at least one of the 120mm fan mounts. Add to that any bottom-mounted PCIe cards, or even PCIe power cables, and there are clearance issues galore. None of this would be a problem with a mini ITX board, but you'll likely have a hard time filling all the empty space in this case if you go that route. Spinning the case around to the opposite side panel, we get access to the rear chamber. This is where all of your drives, accessories, power supply, and cable management magic happens. I say magic because, as you'll see later in this video, my power supply and fan wiring is absolutely abysmal, but none of that is visible from the motherboard side. Corsair, +1 for making my hour-long build look absolutely pro level. Here we see we've got 3 drive trays for 2.5-inch discs and 2 drive trays for 3.5-inch discs. You will not believe how difficult it is to say that correctly. The latter of which is actually accessed from a panel on the back side of the case. If you have the RGB model, your Lighting Noe Pro controller will already be mounted and wired up here for you. Again, another nice bit of time savings. There's one thing that's not included here that I feel should be in a case like this though, and that's a dedicated fan controller. One of the first things to disappear from a micro ATX board is a dedicated fan header, and in my case, this board only has 1 system fan header. In a case designed to be used with a large number of fans, I feel Corsair could have earned some serious bonus points by including one here. The rest of the build went off without a hitch, and when completed, this is an absolutely beautiful case. That's in large part due to the cable management I mentioned earlier. Now, my cable management in this case was absolute trash, and the final build still came out looking amazing. If it can take my half-hearted effort and make it look this good, just imagine what it can do for your build. If I have one complaint about the 280X, it's probably the PCIe support on the back of the case. It's a single-arm retention system rather than the traditional screw-in support for each card. When installing the graphics card, the PCIe blanks kept falling out, meaning I needed to balance both the blanks and the GPU with one hand and then screw in the support with the other. Not that big of a deal, but the tolerance was a little bit too tight and getting this bracket installed was kind of an ordeal. Not the biggest issue in the world, but something worth mentioning, and it was a little bit more difficult than it really needed to be. So, the new Corsair Crystal 280X RGB. I'm a fan in almost every regard. Sorry, that was bad again. Airflow is great with my Ryzen 5 2606 core holding a rock-solid 62 degrees Celsius under full synthetic load, and that's with the fans barely spinning up past their idle speed. Although I did add in a fan controller and an additional pair of 140mm fans on top to achieve that. So, it's easy to build in, it's cool, it's quiet, and man, do those tempered glass side panels look fantastic. This is a solid offering from Corsair that will look good with just about any parts you put into it. And for $159 with the Lighting Noe Pro RGB kit, or $109 without, the Crystal 280X can be a fantastic foundation for your next build. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Modders Inc. if you're not already. Also, let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think of the latest offering from Corsair? I think it's a definite upgrade from their Carbide Air series, and that tempered glass really does look good. Also, make sure to visit our Amazon store down in the video description for anything you need for your next builder upgrade, such as the Crystal 280X from Corsair. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, I'm Jeff, and I'll see you in the next video. Wait, I forgot what show I was on, sorry. Come on, you knew I was going to sneak a beer in here eventually.